Okay, welcome back to Supply Chain Secrets. If you're new here, welcome. You'll find lots of interesting stuff on this channel. If you've been watching recently, you'll know that over the last couple of weeks, I've been sharing some thoughts on what to do during the pandemic with supply chains. 2 weeks ago, we talked about a simple process for supply chain strategy, and we'll put a link up there for that one. And then last week, we talked about what your supply chain is going to look like over the next 6 to 9 months, and some of the things you could do now to influence the outcomes. And we'll put the link to that one up there as well, just in case you missed it. But this week, we're going to be talking about outrunning the bear. What do I mean by that? There's that old joke, isn't there? When you're walking in the backwoods, and a bear comes, you come across a bear, do you have to be able to outrun the bear? Bears run really quick, apparently. No, you don't have to actually outrun the bear. You just have to run quicker than the guy next with you, because the bear will get him. It's a little bit like that in business too. You don't necessarily have to be best in class, but you want to be better than the lower ranked businesses, because those are the ones that are really going to struggle. So we don't have to outrun the bear, but we're going to outrun the competition. And that's the topic for this week. Okay, so this week we are talking about priorities. So last week we talked about what you want your supply chain to look like in 6 to 9 months, some of the processes you might go through. We talked about benchmarking and looking for opportunities. Let me talk this week about some of the opportunities that I think you might want to jump onto, and some of the things that you need to have a look at. We actually talked about this on a Zoom discussion a couple of weeks ago. And thank you, Melanie from Berlin. You pointed out, I asked for feedback on this, and you pointed out that actually all of this had to be underpinned by a review of the supply chain strategy. Very important point. So again, we'll put a link to the supply chain strategy video. So once you understand your strategy going forward, these are some of the tactical things perhaps that you could start looking at. Now, let's put this up on the screen. What we're going to start with is this four box matrix, and I'll explain that. We'll start populating it in a minute. Basically, what these 4 boxes mean, that on the y-axis, we're plotting things that have a significant level of business benefit. So the higher we go on the axis, the bigger the benefit to the business. Along the bottom axis, we're talking about ease of implementation, time, cost, resources. And the further we go to the right, the easier it is. So you can see that top right on this matrix are the things that we've really got to do now. Act now to get an immediate benefit. Top left, these are maybe things that have a significant benefit, but they're going to be a little bit harder to implement, take longer, take more resources. So we might want to plan that for a little bit further down the track. Bottom right, we're going to act very soon to get an immediate benefit, but maybe the size of the benefit isn't quite as significant. And then bottom left, these are the ones that we might park for the next 3 to 6 months. Maybe reconsider those because the benefit isn't necessarily that big, and there's going to be quite an effort required in making those changes. So that's our 4 box matrix. What are we going to put in to that matrix? So first of all, let me share some suggestions. And these are things that I think are probably up there towards the top right. Firstly, in last week's video, I talked about benchmarking performance. That's a really good way to start. So how are you performing now? That will help you identify opportunities for improvement. You can, I know I mentioned this last week, you can benchmark internally within the business, you can benchmark externally, but that shows you where the big ticket items are, shows you very clearly on what to target. The next thing that I would suggest, and I talk about this on this channel over and over again, because a lot of people just don't get it, is doing a cost to serve audit. Just a high level one of the main products and customer groups. If you have never undertaken a cost to serve audit, let's put some links up here right now where you can actually go and have a look at some cost to serve videos and shows you how to do it. Why is that so important? Because along with the benchmarking, we need to know where our performance is really lacking, and particularly on that cost to serve audit, we need to understand where money's leaking out of the business so that we can plug those leaks straight away. So that's definitely a top right one. The third one, I think, is a really quick evaluation of inventory. What have we got that's not moving? What are we running out of? Is the range too big? Should we be rationalising the range? What are we likely to run out of? These are very volatile times at the moment, and so we need to get a quick grasp on that. Number 4, so we're coming down the graph a little bit now, not quite as urgent maybe, not quite as significant benefit, starting to get a little bit harder maybe to implement. Slotting the warehouse. If you want to know how to slot a warehouse, we'll put a link up here. I did a video with one of our guys, John Monk, actually in a warehouse, and we talked about slotting. It's basically rearranging the product in your warehouse to reduce the amount of travel time required to go and pick the product. Really great way to reduce costs. The next one, and a lot of our clients are doing this at the moment, so I put that in as number 5, that's having a look at third-party logistics contracts. So maybe your business has changed a little bit, maybe the rate structures are no longer applicable, maybe there's a few things that you can tweak on the contract to make it fit your current circumstances a lot better. So that's well worth doing. And number 6 is probably exactly the same thing with your freight contracts. Again, making sure that any changes in the business are reflected in the arrangements that you have with freight companies, that you're paying the right rate structures and getting the right breaks and so on. So that's really important. And then we got to put in number 7, the supplier audit. So I'm not talking about, a huge piece of work here, but you really need to be looking at your strategic suppliers, your key suppliers, making sure that, supply is assured, making sure that you diversify that supply base perhaps through because of what we've gone through over the last few months. So shoring up that supply is going to be really important. The next box, I've thrown in some things there that you might be thinking of doing, but I'm suggesting here that maybe you can park them for a little bit. So the first one is changing sourcing. So as long as you're getting your supply through okay, I wouldn't be making massive changes there right at the moment. So number 8, we're starting to put that over towards that top left box, something you might want to do a little bit later. Things like upgrading warehouse automation and technology, maybe in a few months. Retendering for freight and warehousing, I'm not sure you'd want to be doing that right now. I think it's probably better to let things settle a little bit. Better to sort of renegotiate rates and costs and things like that now with your existing providers, rather than actually go through a retendering process perhaps during a period of instability. And then finally, this is probably more as we're coming out of the pandemic and things are settling down a bit more, realigning your service offer and then perhaps your network. Again, this is a bit of an unstable period. You really don't want to be making big changes to your distribution networks, but you can certainly be looking at it now with a view to potential changes in a few months' time, should they be required. So there we go. That's just an explanation. I threw this graphic up on LinkedIn. We talked about it with a group on Zoom a couple of weeks ago to see what the sort of feedback was. I thought I'd share it here on the channel. People seem to think it's quite a useful guide. You might want to put different things in there, but what I wanted to share was really that process of going through prioritizing and deciding what you should work on. When I'm doing this with consulting clients, obviously we take a bit of time to go through this, and you might say, how did I determine where each of these goes on the chart? The 1, the 2, the 3. If you're doing this for real, you would actually try to get some fairly good estimates on the potential benefit to the business, in terms of cost savings and that kind of stuff, the ease of implementation, how long is it going to take, costs, resources, and so on. You'd actually put a little bit of rigor in that, and that would determine where it's going to go on the chart. I generally score the level of business benefit from 0 to 10 and ease of implementation from 0 to 10. So you can see number 1 on my little chart here is probably getting an 8 in terms of business benefit and an 8 in terms of ease of implementation. And that determines where they go on the chart. So quite a simple process, very handy little tool. I use a tool like this in my own businesses all the time when I've got competing priorities and I'm trying to work out what things should come up in terms of priorities, what things can be parked for a little bit. It's a really useful process. So just a guide there to help you focus over the next few months on what you ought to be doing with your supply chain. And if you didn't see the video from last week where we were talking about what to influence to get the right outcomes, we'll put that link up there. And also the one 2 weeks ago about supply chain strategy. We've got loads of videos on supply chain strategy. We'll put that link up there. And because the cost to serve audit, look, let's go nuts on the links. So if you want to understand a little bit more about benchmarking, let's put that link up there. And the one with Stephen Thacker, just a note for Louis, my editor. And also we'll put links to how to do cost to serve up there as well. So lots and lots of stuff for you to think about and to go and have a look at, and hopefully that's going to help you over the next few months. Thank you for watching. And if you're new to the channel, do come back, and the easiest way to do that is to subscribe. Just hit that red subscribe button, and if you hit that little bell, you'll be notified every time we have a new video coming out, and they generally come out every Wednesday. So thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you've got any questions, any comments, any feedback, do comment below. I love to get the comments because that tells me what you're interested in, what's not so interesting, and it can guide us to provide the right information on this channel. So again, thanks for watching, and see you next week.